Okay, I'm going to go ahead and welcome everyone that's here, and for those of you that are on our virtual option, my name is Julie Preston, and I'm the superintendent here in Boone. I'm going to go ahead and let Autumn and Mitch introduce themselves, and then we also have a guest joining us virtually that will also introduce. So, Autumn.
I'm Autumn Sealer. I'm the principal at Page and Lincoln Elementary.
I'm Mitch Lewis, the Director of Business Services.
And Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric Barron with DLR Group, the architecture and engineering firm assisting the district.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So what we'd like to do is just share with you a little bit about what the bond referendum means for Boone and some of the reasons why it's going to be before you in a special election. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just click on through to the next slide. So we're going to do a little history lesson, and a lot of you are aware of this already, but in 2006, the Board of Education, when the middle school was about to be built, came up with a plan for the district over the course of many years. And you can see that it started with restructuring of the elementary buildings and eliminating the use of 3 of the buildings and the creation of Page and Lincoln becoming the 2 schools for pre-K1, and Franklin was then the 2 through 4 buildings.
Oops.
Then when then the
Trying to make this live.
was built, brand new, and then planning for a possible pre-K1, knowing that both Page and Lincoln were at the ages that a new elementary project would likely be necessary. So at that time, they also looked at several different land options. The district did recently purchase some land for the elementary project, but there were several that were considered across the area in Boone. So they either were rejected due to the land not being for sale, because you have to have land that's for sale to be able to buy it, or there were some instances where the items, there were things underneath the land, like oil pipes, that might cause some problems if you're trying to build a facility. So the current land acquisition is a result of all of that planning and vetting of different land options that were available in the Boone area. So there is a kind of a reason behind the land acquisition that we did attain. And that's the picture of where the site of the new building, it would be in that location towards where the residential area is. And some people have asked questions as to why there's not a full design. Why don't we see a picture of the school? Well, the design would come once we have the bond passed. So that's something that we would have all of you, as well as those of you watching online, be part of that design process, because we certainly want to make sure that we have all kinds of input into the different ideas that we have for a new elementary school, and making sure that we meet all of the needs that we do have, both as a school community as well as a community at large. So speaking of that, one of the pieces that a new elementary school would provide for the community would be extra gym space. You can see that this gym space is utilized by our district, but obviously cannot house a lot of community activities given the size and space of this location. So having a new gymnasium more the size of Franklin's would allow for community use for Special Olympics, AAU teams, winter ball practice, open gyms, and it is basketball season now, and those of you that have any kind of involvement know that we don't have enough gym space. That's something that's always in high need. A new elementary school would also help improve the learning environment and just a safer environment for entrances and exits, and ADA being compliant with the facility. When you walk into the building, you can see that there are stairs and there's no elevator. And you would think putting an elevator in would be a simple process. It's not. So there are stairs, and so the whole first floor is what's available to anyone who may have mobility issues. The second floor is not available to them because we do not have the capacity to do that in this building or at Lincoln. Greater maintenance and professional development efficiencies. It's a lot easier to maintain one facility versus two aging facilities, as well as professional development. When we had our professional development on Monday, for example, Page and Lincoln teachers didn't have the same opportunity to come together in the same space as some of the other buildings were able to do, simply because there's not a large enough space, especially during COVID, to provide that opportunity to them. So they're trying to collaborate from afar, or they're traveling to one building or another to make sure that they can collaborate together. We also are hoping that it would allow for expanding opportunities if we have an increase in population or other programming like daycare. Right now, because of the size of our facilities, we have limited amounts of daycare available. If we have a different facility, we might be able to accommodate more students or children in a daycare facility with a different landscape. And then just greater flexibility in supporting our district needs. So currently, Page and Lincoln serve preschool, transition kindergarten, first grade. But if the district were to change any of the grade levels, they wanted to have it be a pre-K2 building, Page and Lincoln don't have that ability. A new facility would provide flexibility if that's something down the road that the district felt that would be a better grade configuration. That's something that could be explored. At this point, that's not something that can even be explored as a possibility. So then the next question comes, well, why not remodel Page and Lincoln? We've got two facilities. We could add elevators. We could add classroom spaces. If you were to add on to Page here, one of the things it would do is take away some of their playground space. And that's something that we already wish we had more space for our kiddos to play on the playgrounds in the space that we currently have, but it would take up more of that space as well. Again, in order to remodel both locations, it's going to take at least 3 school years to remodel at the same time. Those of you that have been in the community long enough to remember when the high school got remodeled and how you have to shift kids around so that you can still get the remodeling done, it would take at least 3 school years, and we would need to find places for the students while those things were occurring, as well as, again, even after things were remodeled, we still don't have a parking lot. None of you were able to park in a parking lot, and our drop-off and pickup areas, that's still not something that could be solved with remodeling as well. The other reason that we would not want to remodel is going to be the next slide, and that is cost.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Stop coming
That's
down.
okay.
There you go.
So we've got 3 different cost estimates. The first one is simply for the next 5 years, if we were not exploring any kind of a bond referendum at all, and we simply existed in the facilities that we do as is, it's going to cost us between $3 to $5 million just to maintain the buildings as they are. Some of you may have noticed our boiler as you walk past. That is something that would take quite a bit of money to replace, as well as any kind of electrical work. The walls are safe right now as long as you don't disturb them. Disturbing the walls and asbestos inside the walls, so asbestos abatement and things like that. So just to exist for the next 5 years, it would cost the district $3 to $5 million. So if we remodel and we wanted to simply make sure we have ADA compliant facilities, we have more classrooms, it would cost us $24.5 million to remodel both buildings. And again, that's not going to give us our parking lots, that's not going to give us our drop-off pickup lanes, and it would take away from some of the playground. That $24.5 million price tag does not include any architectural costs, fees, anything that would have to go along with construction. For a new building, the new building itself would cost about $19.9 million. The $23 million bond referendum is because we also want a parking lot and we want to have drop-off pickup areas, and there's fees for our architects and construction and some of the preparation for the land there are other fees that go into that. So that's where the $23 million price is to be able to have all of those things. So it actually is more fiscally responsible to have a brand new building versus having 2 buildings remodeled. Ready for this. This might be an example. What's that? Oh, get the charger. So the first question also is, okay, well, you have to pay for $23 million somehow. How are my taxes going to be raised? So essentially what this bond referendum is doing is asking for your permission to borrow the money. And the way school districts pay off debts that they have, like borrowing bonds, buying bonds to pay for a $23 million bond referendum, is use debt service levy. And our debt service levy is how we pay for that. It is currently at 4.05 per 1,000 assessed value. So that is the ceiling. We cannot go higher than that by law. So that is something that will not raise regardless. At the same time, if this were, the bond referendum does not pass, that bond, that service levy stays at 4.05. It's not going to decrease if we don't build a new building. It's simply going to remain the same. And part of that is because the district did act very fiscally responsible by paying down some of the previous debt that they had with that debt service levy to save taxpayer dollars with regard to a lot of the interest that would have had to have been paid had they not done that. That's what brought us that bonding capacity to put this bond referendum in place. I think we're going to share what some of the buildings look like, but I'm not sure. So this would be an example of some discrepancies between our other buildings and Page and Lincoln. Our internet is a little bit different here.
This is the question about what will happen to Page and Lincoln.
Okay, so the question about what will happen to Page and Lincoln is we already have had an interested buyers for at least one realization. I think at this point the plan is to try and sell the properties. If that is not possible, then that's something that the board would need to determine, or the district would determine what would be the best use of the land at that point. So that's something that really can't be finalized until we have an actual bond referendum that passes and we have land or facilities to sell, but that would be the intent at this point. So I'm going to turn this over to Autumn now because she's going to share a little bit about Lincoln because we aren't sitting in Lincoln right now. So if you didn't have an opportunity to participate in that particular presentation, you can see what Lincoln looks like, and then we are going to do a tour here in Page as well. So I'm going to let Autumn take it.
So this is an example of our not the most welcoming front on Lincoln and the entry door. One of our biggest securities is safety. I think over time has our community changed and our schools changed. Having secure entrances where we can see who's entering and leaving the building is a really high priority. One of our high schoolers made a really good video of Lincoln Elementary. It's posted on our Facebook pages if you haven't seen it. Much better footage. She definitely is way more techy than I am. And there's some footage down there as well too. But you can see our access to our buildings are just not safe and secure or welcoming. We had a 3-year-old who is coming to be a 4-year-old really scared to come to school because she only saw that outside of the building that I just showed you. It took a lot of stuffed animals, maybe a treat or two to get her to come into the building and realize that preschool would be okay. And again, we'll give you a tour here, so we just wanted to give you a little bit of insight into Lincoln since we're not there. Our classrooms are pretty tiny. When they were built, this one is 81 years old. Class sizes were different. Things like kindergarten were half day, especially with COVID, you can see the spots where they sit on the ground to keep them spaced out. And their tables, it's pretty tight quarters for kiddos in the classroom. There's a lot of things that we can't keep in the classroom that we'd like to, just based on the space that we have available. Also in a second, I'm going to show you, you'll notice the chalkboard on the wall, very retro, but we're looking for more technology that's quality for our students, like projectors and smart TVs and those kind of things. If you can see on the wall, there's a lot of damage from water leaking in. I'm going to show you the air conditioner in a second. You can see the gaps kind of in the light around the air conditioning units. There's one in each room. We have to keep it on the majority of the school year to make sure that our floors don't melt. And just the walls in general, just need a lot of support. It's done a great job for 81 years, but the ability to fix it and replace some of the plaster is really difficult when you think about things like asbestos abatement before you hang up anything. So that's really impactful in our classrooms. But as you can see, our teachers are making great use of the small amount of space that they have, making it feel welcome and friendly. But we could do a lot more with the spaces that we need, for sure. And one of the things that really touched on too is we have a lot more services, like speech services for students that need that, or OT or PC services outside of the classroom. We don't have any extra classrooms for that. They're doing it in the hallways. I'll show you some pictures in a little bit of that. And so just, space in general is a really huge issue. Just the building in general, keeping up on it, making sure that, things don't leak, that, our walls are not falling in, and over time that just happens. It's something that's 81 years old, even with good upkeep, it over time needs to be replaced and replenished. And so again, like that thought of putting an elevator into a building that just structurally has done its job for 81 years, what would that look like with asbestos abatement and all those other pieces that go into play? I'm going to show you some pictures of Lincoln, their page. Just the ways that we're getting creative with the space. Again, we'll give you a tour later, but if you're at home, when they get a tour, they're going to see a lot of ways that we've been really creative about using the space that we have. Particularly, you think about 30% of our building is on that second floor, where we can't have programming there in case a kid needed to have, that had mobility issues or a family that did. We wouldn't be able to have accessibility for that. So you notice there's lots of tables in the hallway for teachers to meet one-on-one with students, or interventions or supports that are in place for them. That card on the wall is our rainy day toy card, because on rainy days, there's only one gym. And so we have to figure out how to share it. And we've had probably a week and a half of indoor recess. If you have kids at your house, you know what a week and a half of indoor recess feels like. Yep, got a thumbs up. So spaces like this, we have to get pretty creative with how we use it. You'll notice the technology cart is right there as well too. Just finding ways that we can use every nook and cranny. These teachers are phenomenal about that. But for them to have the tools and materials they need would be a huge asset for them. Here's another picture of a classroom at Page. Again, you'll notice all those dots for them to fit on the carpet. Those tables are pushed out. Some of our kids just need creative seating.
Good. Oh, there it is.
Oh, sorry. Those take up spaces as well. Teachers are using tubs and organizing bins and all of those things, but our spaces are really small to meet the needs of our students. Both of our buildings have stairs, which I know I mentioned a lot, but when we think about accessibility, we have had students in the past that have broken legs. How we get them up and down the stairs, what does that look like? Even as you look at this, lattice work protecting children, probably it works for us, but there's better way that we can make sure our building is accessible to kids. Absolutely. And that's a full flight of stairs there to get up to that second level. But we also, if you notice, underneath creatively stored bikes, tables, all kinds of things, because it just wasn't built for that when it was built. The pop-up lockers have become libraries for us to store books. The stage, many of you are here. You can see Kids Club. This is Kids Club up on the stage right here. We have a picture on the screen for those of you at home. This is where our before school and after school program is held. Also during the summer, our kids that need quality childcare need a space as well. They don't, they need access to a sink and to potties, and luckily we have some, but this is their space right there for them to do what they need. Again, tables in the hallway. Here's a library that we have in the hallway of books for leveled readers for our students, because we don't have enough space to store them anywhere else. We ran out of space on top of the lockers, so we got some more shelving for the hallway. As we think about the quality materials that students need, we need more space for those. Again, another table in the hallway to try to meet those needs and give a lot of that really high quality instruction, because it's happening here. Our teachers just have to work really hard to give it. This is actually the office of one of our online teachers. She teaches online kindergarten underneath the stairs. That's kind of where we're at right now with space, making sure that everybody has what she needs. And she does it without grumbling, with a joyful heart. She's a phenomenal teacher. She's also our instructional coach. But that just kind of shows you the perspective of, we use every single nook and cranny of our current buildings. Imagine if we had these high quality spaces for our kids, what we could do with them.
So before we do the tour, for those of you that are present, if there are questions.
I'll look on my notebook before you do that.
There's none online. No questions online.
No questions on them? Okay. There are questions in the room. Otherwise, we'll take you for a tour, and one of the things that I'd like you to pay attention to is the temperature that you feel as you walk through the building, and the varied temperature that you feel. And know that what you'll experience tonight is what our students experience on a daily basis. And so I think that's something that I'd like for you to also notice. Beyond what you can see visually, I do want you to pay attention to what you feel temperature-wise. And it's it's amplified because of the weather that we have currently, but it is an issue even in milder winter. So something to consider as we walk through the building. Okay. All right, I will give you guys that tour.
Should we do it online? Should we cut it off?
You want me to take my computer with me?
We could, I guess. We'll take the viewers with us.
Looks like my computer's almost done. Let's see if I unplug it, if I'll be okay. I'll take you guys
You
with
can
me
get
as
your
long
phone.
as I can. What?
Put it on your phone.
Oh, that's a good idea. There we go. Kid creative, I like it.
That's right. While we're waiting momentarily, just so everyone is aware that the vote is March 2nd, and there is early voting now, and there's also absentee voting. So that's something else just to keep in mind as you're planning to vote.
And there's absentee ballots and envelopes on the table if you vote them.
There you go.
All right, so yeah, as you notice, down here is gonna be nice and toasty. We're gonna walk past the kitchen and let you guys can see that. Although we don't actually have a working kitchen, so I think daily part Nope, it's not. So I'm just talking to you guys. Awesome. Thanks.
Here we go.
Thanks, technology. Awesome. I'm actually going to take us through the office area. I'm going to have you pop in the nurse's office if you haven't seen it before. Right now, we can serve one child at a time. One of the nice things of some of our other buildings is they have a couple sick bays for kiddos. Because, I mean, little pumpkins always have stomachache and headaches at the same time, same season. They miss their mamas, all that good stuff. So walk through here and you can pop your head into our nurse's office. And you can see the one staff bathroom for the entire building. I feel like you should be giving this to a girl.
Oh, no.
This is our title room. She works with our students that are working on reading and growing their brains that need some interventions. Oftentimes her office is 80 to 90 degrees as well because of the boiler and its proximity to that. This is our office space. Notice the leakage. Here's the stairwell. If any of you have heard me talk about the things that have to be replaced, there are those right on there. $100. We have lots of leakage through this front as well too, and we just can't seem to find the source of that. This is the insecure entryway that we talk about a lot, especially because when people enter, Melanie, our secretary, has to jump out and try to catch them before they get any farther into the building. When we think about what we dream of a safe vestibule that parents and visitors can enter in and then go directly to the office space instead of having to come out and have access to the entire building. We do offer 4-year-old childcare here. Our 4-year-olds are here for sometimes 10 hours a day. So their program is actually in this room. It's the only classroom that has potties in it. If you've ever had little kids, you know how important access to the potty is, especially when they're potty training. So that's our only room that has that in there. That would be something that we would really want to think about as we think about making an early childhood center. I think too, as we get questions about why can't we just turn another building into an early childhood center, it would like sinks have to be low, paper towel holders have to be low, potties have to be low, all those kind of things. And then there's our book library that we mentioned. Bathrooms, period. There's 1 girl's on the first floor, 1 girl's on the second floor. There's 1 staff bathroom for the entire building for all the staff, which is over 40 staff members at this building. And they're all girls, except for a couple. I'm sorry, I got a couple boys. Got a couple boys in there. So that's an issue as well. Then as you walk in here, notice the temperature change that you're feeling. We have to run our air conditioners pretty consistently for it to stay cold enough. And even then it doesn't make it to all locations. I think one of the awesome things about our dreams for a new elementary building would be common spaces like this. Julie mentioned that we don't actually have a place where all of our staff can fit together. This library was just a classroom. As you notice how tiny it is, and we think about that love of learning and reading for our students. Our plan is, if the bond were to pass and we would be able to plan, was to plan our common spaces even for expansion. So like at the middle school, as they added another wing, we would build our common spaces even bigger to make sure that we could always access however our population fluctuates as well. And so I think this is a prime example of what happens when you don't plan well. We have to go back and forth between buildings to borrow books, and we use the Erickson Library a lot, which is awesome to have, but how amazing if we had a welcoming place that really got kids excited about reading that was big enough for everybody would be a really awesome asset. So yeah, you guys can head out in the hallway.
First time we've been sent to the hallway.
Right? Do you guys get sent to the hallway a lot? I'm actually, should we go in your room or should we go in here? What you thought? You want to go in your room? Okay, we'll go in your room. Oh, there it is. Nope. That's not it. Where's the light switch? No, it's right there.
Hiding underneath.
Probably on purpose. I want you guys just to come in for a second because I want you to feel how tight it feels for our preschoolers.
This is a preschool room.
Mm-hmm. What you'll notice about this classroom, yep, it's preschool. And, this is a prime example of all of the things that little preschoolers need to learn and grow, and having enough space for that. It feels really tight, but it is super organized intentionally. He has to store all of his snacks in here for his students. Everything for 2 sets of students. So 36 kids worth of student supplies go in here, and still give them space to learn and grow. So another reason why planning intentionally, I think probably 60 years ago in the case of this building, preschool wasn't as prevalent as now. It's offered free from the state. The state pays for it for our families. And so that's a really important part of kids growing in their development as well too. So
They help contribute to.
they do. They start.
Pay for it.
Yes. but they contribute for our families, so we can offer them preschool that our families do not have to tuition base
Correct.
out of.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you for the clarification. Feel free to use the trampoline on your way out.
36 is because it's like 18.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yep. Not 36 kids at one time. You'll notice a lot of spaces in the hallway for students to work, boots, all those great things. In here is our art room and our library. They share the space. Our art is on a cart. And so she has to travel to each classroom. She has supplies stored in here and then supplies stored at each levels at both buildings in order to give students art, because as our numbers grow, we don't have enough classrooms for all of our students. And so we have to get creative with how we serve them. There's a first grade classroom to your left here if you'd like to pop in and see that. I'm going to take you up the back stairwell. Another kindergarten classroom. This is actually that teacher that I talked about, office space that's doing online learning. We've actually had instruction down here before in the past. Down in the stairwell. I probably should take video of that, huh? There you go, guys. Here's one of the kindergarten classrooms that we saw that picture of. Ironically, those chairs are sitting right there just like they were. But you can kind of see how the teacher is trying to creatively use space however humanly possible. But even with all the things that they need, especially during COVID, all the manipulatives you can see behind you to make sure they have high quality learning just takes up space. And we have to figure out how to fit them into smaller class sizes or classrooms. I'm not going to take you in this room because there's names up. Taking a different room where there are not names up. I'm just going to have you guys kind of, maybe. Here, this is Mrs. Himes' room. I'll have you pop your head in. But one of the dreams of our new building is having spaces where we can creatively meet student needs, give them spots to calm down, feel self-regulated, take cozy breaks, interact, have some time to calm down. This is a space that we need a lot in our school, and we need to have more space to do that. Here's a first grade classroom. This is one that the air conditioner often blows. If you want to fear a temperature change, this is one that one of the fans broke in, so it's not pumping the heat the same way. So they wear their coats sometimes. This is Angie Zimmerman's room. Yeah, still Angie's room.
It's chilly.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
In a lot of these rooms, where do you put the students?
Right? Great question. Where do we put the students? Of course. Here's our TK room if you want to pop your head in. Right here. Again, you can see how we're trying to creatively use storage with hooks and buckets and tubs and all of that awesome stuff. Any questions before we go down? Anything you want to see that you haven't seen? No? All right.
What is that of the bathrooms? Like they're awfully small.
I think, yeah, this is a gentleman's bathroom. Luckily, you are all gentlemen. I think you should go in, check it out. You haven't probably been in the elementary bathroom in a while. I mean, when you think about on this floor, there are 1, 2, 3, there are 4 classrooms of students. 30, 40, 60, 75 students that share that bathroom right there that you're in right now.
And with little ones, they don't always know when they have to go.
Well, they do. It's,
Yeah, nobody wants to stop what they're doing to then see it. Yeah, absolutely. So we can head down the stairs. Again, notice the temperature change. All right, I'm gonna log out. Thanks for joining us. I know. I was at one point I put 10, but I can. More or maybe I can I don't either. I'd rather just know about it. That was oh, perfect. There might be some around. I was like, I figure out one. Okay. That kind of could be enough.
Thank you. Good work.
Thanks for coming out.
You bet.
Appreciate your support always. There you go. Yeah, they moved it tonight, right? Wasn't it?
Well, actually, whoever was on the way,
Two.
and they have 14, so they did it.
Oh, good.
The stuff on them.
Well, we're gonna get rid of the big garbage and cut out some of the yellow big things that it's like, I love it. I don't know. Well, my husband actually asked me the same thing, so they interviewed me at the high school, thinking I wouldn't know. Well, of course we drove there and drove through all the parking lots, and he's looking up like the security rate in town, like how dangerous it is, and like,
How'd we do?
not great, not great. He's a really worried.
That's
You know, it's okay, that's okay. I feel like it's a good thing. I really like it. I like the age levels. I think people are invested for the right reasons. Now we just gotta get into it, not just the office and people going on.
Did you say you only lived in the
They did.
No, any question?
Well, well, no, my husband and I came here prior, so we came and I had my kids play in the playground, and I was like, there's a parking lot. I'm like, oh, excuse me, there's like, here, that's it.
Yeah.
So I knew what I was gonna do.
Right.
Yeah, that was what it was, that was what it was, yeah. There's good stuff happening here. We just need a building to match. That's all. We can do it, we'll just do this on go, we have a link like this. We just need to support it.
I didn't.